How's it going, everyone? Excited to get started today. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I'm going to go ahead and turn down my music a little bit. Just enough to where you guys can maybe enjoy some of these tunes with me. Of course, don't hesitate to leave feedback. More than happy to adjust the sound as needed as well. Tonight we're not going to be doing games, but a code along. So I'm excited to get started tonight. This is kind of my good, awesome. I'm glad. Cool. Everybody can see code and things like that. You should be able to see a browser window as well. So what we're gonna do tonight is we started playing some Pokemon Red a couple days ago, and I kind of want to build something that is a tool that's able to quickly display our Pokemon, the name of the Pokemon, and maybe like the next 5 upcoming moves that it knows. I think that'd also be cool to kind of implement. But I guess what I'm going to show tonight is just kind of how to do a simple HTTP request using JavaScript. And then, I don't know, maybe we'll get something up onto an HTML page tonight. If not, no big deal. We'll at least have the opportunity to hang, write some code, and enjoy some cool social time together. So glad that you guys could join me. Let me go ahead and turn my light on just because my eyes are terrible. And it helps me to see if I have some light. Dope. Let's get started. So I already got a directory set up. Maybe one day in the future I'll also kind of show you guys my setup as far as VS Code is concerned. Right now I just have Visual Studio Code opened, and I have an empty directory that I've called PokeSquad. We're going to build just a simple index.html so that we have somewhere to put our console output, and then also a JS file so that we have a place to write our actual code. So with this index.html, we'll go ahead and get started. I got my VS Code set up to where it's pretty smart. It knows what I'm gonna do before I do it, especially of course if I go over here and give my file name a file type. So I'm also gonna say HTML, give it a language so that the browser doesn't complain at us about languages. Of course, the document head, what we should start our any JavaScript with. We'll just call this one PokeSquad. I'm actually going to do that. PokeSquad. I'm not going to put anything else in the head, just for the sake of time tonight. We'll start on the body. And I will cite the script that I'm about to make, source equal, and then we'll just call it script.js. We'll keep it in the same directory so that it's easily referenced in the same spot. Come back over here and actually just so you have the knowledge, the shared knowledge here, I'm gonna go ahead and create this. Will I? Let me go off screen and then I'll drag it on screen just so that I'm showing you guys my entire directory layout. Anyway, what I'm doing right now is I'm going to go ahead and change my directory to a new directory, or to this directory that I've already created here. So let me change there real quick, and once we're there I'll show you guys how to create a file as well, and as well a directory. So let's see. Where do I have this? There it is. Cool. Alright, so I'm in the PokeSquad directory right now. I can verify that by listing everything that's in there. We can see that we have our index.html file already in the directory there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and from here touch script.js. Touch is the command line command that creates a new file within this directory. And so as you can see, that script.js just popped up for us. You can do the same thing with new directories. So say you needed to create a directory here, you would just say mkdir make directory, and you know what? We'll save this for later. Is that gonna work? Is that gonna work? I'm gonna do this hoping that it's gonna work, but I'm not sure because I can't remember. It should work. What we're gonna do now is but what I've done, excuse me, is I've created a console log within the JavaScript file. This is just to test our JavaScript to make sure that the file is connected and good to go. And so what I'll do here is I'm going to come over to our browser. I already have a browser window open. I'm going to open this up with Live Server. This is a cool little tool that I have. And cool, it's opened up. We can't see anything on the page right now, and that's normal because we don't have anything written within our HTML. We'll go ahead and just for the sake of illustration, I'll put a heading on this page. And we'll say, "What's up, Midgard?" All right, and we should see it pop up, and it does. Awesome. Oh, what's Midgard? What is Midgard? I want to say, "What's up, Midgard?" All right, there we go. So now I'm going to come over to the console, and if we are good to go and our JavaScript is wired correctly, there it is, the hello world that we created within our JavaScript file as well. I know that that's the hello world because I know it is, but also I can change it dynamically and be like, I don't know, sup CZ, just put it up there. And now we got a shout out within the console. There it is. Ferg. It's probably Comcast. I apologize for my lack of modem, my lack of speed. It might be me. I hit my data cap because Comcast doesn't care, and that's real. That is legit one of the most scariest first world emails you'll ever get. Let's do this. I'm gonna cut the music just for the sake of the cast so that we can save up some bandwidth. Unfortunately, you guys are gonna just have to listen to me talk this entire time. That's rough. But if that's killing our bandwidth, that would really stink. Alright, so we're going to go into the JavaScript file now. We have our console log up on the screen. I'm going to get rid of it. And this is the page that I'm going to be referencing the most. This is probably the most important thing as a developer that I use is my documentation all the time. I'm a giant cheater, and I just Google everything all day long. Developers don't know what they're doing. They just read well. So I'll drop the link here in my chats. I think I got it on Facebook and on the Twitch chat. So this is the Mozilla docs that I'm going to be referencing for the request interface of the Fetch API that's built into JavaScript. This is going to work on your Mozilla browsers and your Chrome browsers, but it's not going to work on IE. IE at all, and that's just what it is. If you are using IE, I would just encourage you to upgrade your browser anyway. And if you're a Microsoft diehard, Edge is out there. It's a brilliant browser, and it's got 100% support on the accessibility tree, so go Microsoft. The Edge is also a Chromium shell, so it's basically Microsoft Chrome. Bottom line, get yourself a modern browser, people. Check it out. If you're ever wondering too about like any of these methods that we're using for JavaScript, good stuff. All right. So as I was saying, any of these methods that we're going to be referencing, if you guys scroll to the bottom of the page on those docs that I'm sending out, you can see what compatibility they have between the browsers. And y'all, this request off of the API it's not that new, let me tell you. And it's not supported by IE, but it's supported by everything else, like the Opera browser. So your Nintendo Wii will run this JavaScript, but your Internet Explorer 7 won't. So if that tells you anything about needing to upgrade, there it is. There it is right there. I'm actually just going to use almost a team display. What I want to accomplish today is, actually, let's go ahead and set that up. I think that's a great place to start. So for JavaScript, I'm going to go with a multi-line comment. So what we'll do is, to start a multi-line comment, you'll do a /**. And then to close that, it's a asterisk // Everything in between this is going to be commented. So let's go ahead and set up some goals as far as what we want to get done today. We want to, first of all, set up the request method for the tool, for the app. Let's call it an app. That is what it is a little app. So we want to set up the request method for the app, kind of keep that broad and nebulous. Basically, all we want is we want this request object to return something valid. As a sub part of that, I'll show you what our endpoint that we'll be calling to is, and the kind of requests that we can make using the request API, because there are different request methods. We're going to be doing one today, which is called the get method, and that's exactly what it sounds like. We're going to be asking for an API to send us something, basically saying, hey, can you get this for me? So there we're at. So set up the request method for the app, and let's make that a goal and return a valid object. I like that, a valid object. We're going to be returning the object back in what's called JavaScript object notation. I'll kind of go over what that is once we get the object back, and we're displaying it within the console. For now, let's keep moving. So set up the request method for the app and return a valid object. What's the kind of the next thing that we want to do is, I think that we want to set up an HTML skeleton at least, and then start routing some of the data we return from the API onto the screen. I don't know if we're going to get into pictures yet, y'all. That's like, and the only reason that I say that is because pictures are a whole topic unto themselves. Also, if the turning off the music improved my stream quality at all, please let me know. I greatly appreciate it. I think that that's doable. I don't want to get too far into pictures because pictures is this whole accessibility talk, and I'd kind of like to be able to go over that with you guys as a part of kind of my mindset as a developer is very much accessibility first. I want everybody to be able to use this. The inclusivity is real. So, but I think these three things are really good goals for us to set up and for us to start getting data to where it needs to be. So what we'll do first is we'll go ahead and set up the request. We'll use this const. So let's talk a little bit about variables in JavaScript. This is our first time hanging out together. So I think that we should set up in JavaScript, first of all. I'll set up another multi-line comment for y'all. In JavaScript, let and const are the only two words that you'll ever see me use in JavaScript for variables. There is var as well. Var is deprecated, which means that we don't use it anymore. It's old. People who code for IE7 use var, and that's it. That's it. So, what's next? Let is a new variable assignment. So in ES6 JavaScript, you have let and you have const. I think maybe even ES5 JavaScript had let and const, but I might be wrong. ChillGuy8624, you can feel free to correct me on that, because I think that you're more recent to JavaScript in the academic sense than I am. Anyhow, let is a variable that can be reassigned over time. So you could say something like, let's see, let x equal 5 or 6, evidently, and then later down the road you can reassign the value of x can now equal x times 2, and you've effectively just reassigned the value of this x to whatever x was before times 2. So now this x should be 12. Let's go ahead and test it, right? You don't know unless you learn. So let x equal 6 x is going to equal x times 2, and then we'll console.log x. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to see what x is, and x, lo and behold, is 12. It's exactly what we want it to be. Perfect. So as you can see, we were able to reassign x's value to 12. Now, when you have const, you can't do that. So that's the other ES6 variable, or ES, more modern version of JavaScript variable assignment. Const does not let you change. So you could say something like, and I'll just do it down here so that we have it, const equals 6, and then I'll say x equals x times 2, and then and I've already got an error over here in my console without even console logging anything, and I'll just read it to you guys. It says uncaught type error, assignment to constant variable. So we can't do that. We can't reassign a value to a variable that already has a constant value. It's not possible. JavaScript won't let you do it. So anyway, I'll go ahead and delete those comments now, and we'll go ahead and start setting up our request. It's pretty easy. In this API, request is set up to accept basically a request body and then the request method after that. What we're going to do is we're just going to set up the request body to hit an endpoint at pokeapi.co, I think. So what we'll do is we'll say const rec, I'm just going to call it rec, equals new request. Now you'll notice that I have some syntax highlighting. Basically it's telling me, hey, this is a JavaScript method that I know. Is this what you're talking about? And you can see, like, even here, you're like, hey, that's the one that I want. So yeah, it's kind of a cool thing that VS Code does for you. I highly encourage use of VS Code. I like VS Code. I think it's one of the more modern, more modern IDEs. I like it a lot. Excuse me. All right. And then we'll open up our parens here. And then I'm going to come over here and we'll just go to the place that I'm going to pull this from. Whoop, that's not what I wanted. I want the pokeapi.co. There it is. And so when you get to pokeapi.co, it kind of pulls up. I'll try it now. We're actually going to use just this URL, and we're going to pull up this same resource in our console when we pull it up. You can also come onto the documentation. I think right now they're working on gathering up sword and shield data, which is kind of cool. But yeah, so here's all of the API, all the documentations. I think that they even, link to a couple of different different language specific APIs here in the documentation. So, yep, some good wrapper libraries. There it is. So yeah, I encourage if this is something that you're interested in, pokeapi.co. I'll just go ahead and drop it in the chat as well when I get back to that homepage. And there you go. Cool. So we're just going to hit this endpoint for Ditto. I'm going to copy it here, paste it into my request. I don't need to put in a request method. And the reason for that is that get is the default method for request in this language. So I don't need to put in a specific method. I just need to specify that it's a request. I'll say const URL equals. Do I want to create a URL? Do I need to create a URL? Let's see. No, we're not going to use it. All right. So then, for the sake of whatever, I'll just say we'll just move right along. We don't need that. We don't need the URL because we're not making a full-blown request method, as you can see here. I'm just going straight to this endpoint, and so it's already a URL. It's already formatted correctly. We'll just keep it the way it is. And I am going to switch to single quotes just because I like the way that they look better. Is there a difference? There might be a difference. I don't know. All right. So next thing, we're going to go ahead and start a fetch method. We're going to use our rec, that URL that we just created, and then JavaScript's pretty intuitive. With this fetch API, it's what we're going to do is it's almost exactly like you would say if you were talking it out. All right, hey, I want you to fetch that URL that I put in this request body. Then, when you get a response, execute a function. And so this fat arrow right here, this equal, and then the arrow this way is an anonymous function call. It's basically saying, like, if you get a response, I want you to execute this method. And then it goes into an if block. If the response status equals 200, 200 is basically the universal code for Zang. Like if that response status is 200, if everything's good, if it's excellent, go ahead and return the response and turn it into JSON, because that's what I want. I want to look at the JSON. Else, throw a new error and check your API, bozo. So hopefully we don't get that. Hopefully we don't get the computer calling us a clown. You can definitely space it that way if you like. I kind of dig the way that looks. Just me. Then, with that response, if I can type response, with that response, we want to console log the response. So what's the difference between console.log and console.debug? Let's find out. I'm just going to come over here so maybe you guys can see it a little bit better. Console.debug. Let's see if we can find the Mozilla. There we go. Mozilla Docs, number 1. Don't go anywhere else. Definitely not W3 fools. Alright, so a console method outputs a message to the web console at the debug debug. Okay. I'm just going to console.log it. I don't have time for console.debug and learning the nuances of all of that. Let's just get something on the console. How about? Alright, we'll console log the response. If there's an error, we'll catch it. We'll catch that error, and then we will execute this function, a console.error. I will console.error. That makes sense to me. The error. I mean, I guess console.log would be the generic between the two, right? Kind of sounds like. Alright. Yeah, it is. It's old. It's bad. They definitely like promote really poor practices. It's pretty bad. Alright, so I just refreshed. You can see my screen over here is refreshing, and y'all, we got a list of Ditto data onto the screen. So now I guess is the time to start. Let's start fact checking. Okay, let's start putting this thing through its through a little bit of testing. Can I get the name of some Pokemon out into the chat? Let me know who your favorite Pokemon is. I will. I'll search it, and then I will tell you its ID number. So I'll give you guys about 2-3 minutes to shout your favorite Pokemon. I know I got 4 people logging in with me right now. So who's your favorite? I'll start with mine while I'm waiting for you. My favorite is Wartortle. Let's get some Wartortle data. There he is. Alright, Wartortle's dex number is 11. His order number is 11. Or excuse me, ID number. ID is 11. Order, or ID is 8. Order is 11. I don't know what that means. There's a lot of good data in here, though. We have to start talking about, like, what data do we need to use? I don't know. The next thing we have, too, is kind of a, excuse me, a bit of a challenge, because we got to figure out how to route stuff from the API onto the screen now. Got 2 answers on Facebook. I got Breloom, so I'm going to search Breloom first. Breloom. There we go. And we're in business. Breloom's ID number is 286. Let's see. The first move that it learns is Mega Punch. We got Eevee. I'll search Eevee. Eevee is 132 off the top of my head without looking. ID number Eevee 133. I was so close. Yo, I was so close. What is 132? Now I want to know. Charizard is next. Charizard. When you're that big of a nerd, you remember ID numbers. ID number is 6 for Charizard. And lastly but not least, Squirtle. My boy. My homeboy. Squirtle Squad sunglasses. Alright, ID number is 7. It reminds me of that one song. Knock knock, you about to. I won't. I don't know that. Own that song. It's like a Lil Wayne song or something. Nice. Alright, cool. Let's get, I guess, next step, right? So we got our API call returning a a response. Everything looks great, guys. Everything's good to go. We have like a legit response on the screen. It worked. It worked. I'm like a real developer. I promise. I don't just do this for funsies on occasion. Like, this is what I do. But it's also really fun, and obviously we're having fun right now. So, good stuff. Let's go ahead and start working on a basic HTML skeleton just so that we have some place to put our data once we get it there. We'll start with an H1. I'm just going to kind of compose. And while I'm composing, I'm going to talk to you guys about something that I like to call semantic HTML. And it's so beautiful. I'm going to get passionate right now. So semantic HTML is exactly what it sounds like. HTML is HTML that's used. They have in HTML5 standard, they have tags, HTML tag attributes that are used for exactly what they are supposed to be used for. Or they're named exactly what they're supposed to be named. So for instance, you have buttons, right? We all know what a button is on a web page, or even on a web app, right? We've all seen a button. There's an actual, in HTML, there is an attribute called button. However, because of the dawn of new web technologies and things like this, people have moved away from using semantic HTML and gotten really lazy about doing very generic HTML terms. And I'll show you what those are here in just a moment, called div or span. And there is a legitimate use for all of those elements. Div and span are great if you need something that's super generic and you don't need something that's that accessible. The fact remains, however, is that some of these HTML tags that we're starting to be negligent about using have a semantic use, and they have an accessible use as well. If you come into, don't want to go into accessibility tree, that's a whole thing. So accessibility tree, again, we'll talk about that next time when we talk about pictures, because I think that that's just this huge thing. Anyway, when your browser builds a web page for the computer, it builds two things. It builds something called the document object model, and we'll talk about that today because we do have to connect to the document object model. And it builds an accessibility tree that's intertwined with the document object model. Each of these HTML tags, especially the ones that serve as landmarks for structure, like the H1 tag that I just laid down on the page, or something more semantic like button, even address is another one. Header is another good landmark and accessibility tool. All of those build something into the accessibility tree as well. So when we start to use super generic terms like div and span, we are taking things away from users that don't have the same access as sighted or hearing users. So it's important that we use these accessibility tools because they're built into the language, they're given to us, and they help our content get to a more inclusive audience. That's my spiel. All right, so Polka Squad, that's going to be our header. We will keep this pretty simple. I'm going to say H2, we'll say, is the name of the Pokemon. And this is where I'm going to use a div because I don't need, maybe. Do I want to use a div here? I don't want to use a div here. And I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to use a div here, but I'm not going to use a div here right now. I'll tell you why here in just a second. We'll just keep moving. What do we need next? What's like super important to us that would be great to have? Probably the name, a picture, and I think we said like a list of the next 5 moves, right? So that means too, y'all, this is getting exciting. That means too that we have to find a way to level these Pokemon up, because we need to know what the current level is so that we can get access to the next 5 moves that it learns as well. This is going to be fun problems. We're going to fill it up tonight. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. All right. Do we want to use an H2 here? Yeah, we'll use an H2. Okay. Again, these are all structural HTML tags. The reason that I'm using H1 here and H2 here is that H1's headings, I'll call these what these header tags go in order from what is it? Name, current level, picture. Yep. Yeah. We need to get the picture in there too. I think what we'll do is I'll create a blank space for picture that will loop around to on another time. We might put something like super simple down on the page. But yeah. Alright, so name will be the H1 or the H2. And then image, I'll put an image tag here. This is super important for images, is you always have alt text. Picture of Pokemon. I'm just going to put Pokemon for right now. In the future, that's going to read something different. That's going to actually, we're going to make that alt text dynamic so that, I think the dog is knocking on the door. So I'll go let her in just a moment. We're going to make that dynamic. And what I mean by that is every time we search for a new Pokemon, or every time we have a picture of a new Pokemon, instead of saying picture of Pokemon, it's going to say picture of the actual name of the Pokemon that we just searched for and put up onto this grid. We have some cool challenges to face with this project, because not only are we going to be displaying one Pokemon at a time, we're going to be displaying 6 Pokemon at a time. So we also have to figure out, like, how do we get that set and saved as well. I think it's going to be good challenges, though. In any case, so there's that. I think what we'll do is we'll go with an H3 for the current level. And actually, this is going to be probably like, I'll keep this easy and just make this like a level selector. And I'll have to look up the documentation on how to set up, and I don't write HTML a whole lot, so you guys are gonna see me relying on Google nefariously. It's gonna be wild. So there we go. The current level will be under the H3 tag. I like that. And then another H3, lastly, will be next 5 moves. Yeah. And this will be what? An unordered list. And each list item will contain, and this will be all dynamic, so we don't have to worry about this in the future. Each list item will contain a P tag that includes the level and the name of the move. I'll copy this just for the sake of illustration. And we said the next 5, right? Just cleaning up my code. Clean as you go. Like I still work at Walmart. Oh, can you imagine if I coded for Walmart? That'd be so gross. Alright. Y'all, I think that's good. What do you think? Do you think that I think this is a pretty dope start. I know it doesn't look like much right now. Of course, we're going to clean it up. And I think, too, like, this is the... Oh, cool. Awesome. I'm glad. I think that this is a good place to start. This is also a good place to kind of think about, like, what do we want as a styling, as our themes. I'm not going to go too much into styling on this just because I'm not like a super great CSS developer, so I won't make you guys sit through me searching CSS docs. Anyway, I'm thinking though going with straight up a just like an old style like Game Boy Pokédex sort of look for this, and then current level will be a drop down, and so this will change dynamically, and we'll have the ability to control this. It won't be locked in. So let's go ahead and make the current level drop down, because I think that we can rely heavily on docs for this as well. Let's see. We'll go to MDN, come here. I'm going to switch it up, change to technologies. Let's see. Let's look at the resource section. And then, yeah, I already have like the font face and things like that for it, so I'm excited. This is, what is this? This is an input, right? Is this an input? Gosh, I can't remember for the life of me. Let's see. I'm just going to search because I think it's called HTML option, option tag. HTML option. There it is. The option element. The option element is used to define an item contained in a select. Okay, it's an HTML select. Let's see. Does the HTML select allow for a range? I seem to remember that there was an HTML element that allowed me to pick like between a range of numbers. Let me see. HTML. I'm gonna search that. Let me just search MDN for range. Not Roniga. Roniga. Sorry. Range. Let's see. When range is selected, HTTP range. See, this is half my life as a developer right now, is just searching docs. I have this really great book too, and I can almost see it on the page, but I don't know. Let's see. How about HTML? I want to say digit selector. I'm going to keep it really remedial. Explain to myself like I'm 5. HTML input night number. You guys, I think we found it. Oh my god, I hope none of my future employers see this video freaking ever. Is this it? No, this isn't it. Yeah, it is. I think so. Maximum value to accept. This is it. I think this could work. And the placeholder attribute, we could say the placeholder attribute is automatically a 5 because we know that Pokemon don't go past level 5 or go lower than level 5 in this game. But I think this is the one. I think this is what we want. Okay. So, very important, we do want a label. So we'll start with that. And we'll actually just replace this H3 current level with that, because again, it has something to do with semantics. It has something to do with accessibility. Basically what happens is we're going to label this label, or the label is going to have a for tag that's going to be the same as the ID for the input. And then with that input, we're going to create a function that looks at the Pokemon, it looks at the Pokemon's level, and then with that it returns the next 5 moves. I think that I don't know if we're going to get that far tonight. We could. We might. You might have to sit through a couple more of me doing that weird sound that I just made too. Who knows? Should I be lazy or should I type? I'm gonna type it. All right. I was just gonna copy paste, but no copy pasta here. Label 4, and I know that like this is gonna come up, so I'm gonna tell you right now. Like, it's going to, yeah, it kind of does like stink that. Does it? It doesn't, because this is not a landmark thing. This is not really a header. It truly is a label for an input selector. And we can also resize the text so that it's a little bit more fitting of a header, but it's definitely not a header. And also, it's not something that I want kind of the HTML landmarks to look at as a header, but the input is something that I want to be able to like tab to, because tab index is a thing. We'll talk about it. Just, you know what? That's just incentive for y'all to follow me, because like sometimes I'm just gonna be like, yeah, tab index, and they'd be like, I don't know what he's talking about, and then you're like, I guess we just have to tune in for the rest of eternity to find out what a tab index is. There it is. Level selector, label 4, level selector. How do I want to do this? Is it possible to display current and max hit points? It would be possible to display, I think, max hit points, because I think in this game it's pretty concrete, like based off of your level. What I'm saying is I don't think like EVs and IVs have. They might. I don't know. That's a good question. Basically, that has to getting into the game's code, and I don't know enough assembly to do that. That's some old school coding. What I am gonna do for real quick is look at. Do I want to camel case this? I'll talk about casing here in just a second too. Should JavaScript ID be camel case or a hyphen? Here we go. What's the standard naming convention for there isn't one. I use underscores. We are going to set up our convention right now. Can you show your Pokemon's health bars? Huh. I'm reading comments. I apologize. I'm like sitting here thinking quietly. Can I show my Pokemon's health bars? I would still have to find some way to like... No, not at all. I think I like this challenge. I think though that like I see where you're coming from with it, and I know where my mind is going with it. Like I'm automatically in the place where like I just want this to be dynamic. Like I don't want to have to work for it. I want this information to come from the game and just be displayed to the page. And if that was the case, then that'd be dope, right? Like we could just figure out a way to get into the game and display this to a new page. I should figure out how to do that, honestly. I see where you're coming from. We could do a health bar. Let's definitely keep this here in the... I'm going to start... I'm gonna start this. We're starting a backlog right now. Hit point display. And it sounds like this is something that we would change manually. Like after each battle, or periodically, we'd kind of check on the health of the team, see what the max health is, and see what their current health is, and update it to show everybody. Is that correct? Alright, I'm going to go ahead and start this. So there is no standard naming convention. Sorry about that caveat. I was looking at standard naming conventions for these IDs and labels. There is not a standard naming convention. I'm pretty sure that it's like as long as they match, you should be fine. Yeah, ideally it would be Automagic. But again, I think that would have something to do with me getting into the game's code. Which, by the way, I'm not above. I've always wanted to do Pokemon ROM hacks. And from what I understand, you only need to know a little bit of like, you only need to know like machine language. It's not that big a deal. No, I think that like that's definitely a future thing. HG display first manually. Something that we can update after every other battle or whatever that shows the current status of our Pokemon, HP, and then you know what? We're gonna keep it. While we're at it, why aren't we showing their status too? You know what I mean? Like if they're asleep or poisoned, burned, or paralyzed, I want to know that. Yeah, dude, dope ideas, man. First manually, and then automagically. Two, like this doesn't even have to be something that like we're gonna get this covered, dude. I like these ideas. This is great. This is so much fun right now, you guys. This is so cool. Also, keep an eye out because after all of this is done, I will be setting up a repo on GitHub, and I'll put the link to the repo on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. So if you are a coder, or if you're not a coder and you're learning how to code and you're following along, then dude, Ferg, thanks for the ad. I didn't even notice that. I need to keep better. Who is Ferg? Autocorrected Ferg. Ferg. I didn't even see this. I need to take better care of my stuff. Excuse me. I'm gonna be adding Ferg too. Sorry about that. Anyway. Yeah, well, we're just going to keep this growing. I'll put the GitHub I'll put the link out there so that if you're a coder, if you're not a coder, you can always pull down the code. I'll also attach a README, not tonight, but I will attach a README so that if you're not a coder, you can pull this tool up. And also, I don't know, if you're a Pokemon streamer, feel free to use it. I don't care. Use my code. Do it up. And I'll put a README in there so that you can use it up. Yeah, so there it is. Okay, so label 4. We have our HTML input. We want to go to, I'm going to call it the level selector. Keep it simple. Level select. Current level, right? And we will let the user know what they can select. I like that idea as well. And then we'll close the label. Accessibility rules, you guys. Input. It is of type number equal to number ID. ID is going to be the same as the 4, equal to level select. Thank you. And name is going to be level select. There is, oh man, there's a really cool HTML method called get all attributes by name that's like for current JavaScript. I tried to use it on a client once. It didn't work because the client was stuck in like ES3 JavaScript land. It was terrible, y'all. It was bad. Minimum will be 5. Maximum, I won't say the client's name because that's not professional. But we all have stories. We all have war stories. Alright, cool. So, current level, 5 to 100. We have it sitting here. I'm going to go ahead and test it now because basically this should only let us enter up to 100 and no less than 5. So, yeah. Let's see what it does. I'm going to say 4. Is it going to let me change? What does it say? Nothing. Nothing. Console. I don't think it's doing anything. Let's see if this does something. Oh, look. It's this selector will only go up to 100. And it will only go down to 5. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. And actually, we could have it to where we just click it every time they level up. Oh, this is cool. If you wriggle into the game's code, could you not just display the team menu screen? Yeah, exactly. That's basically what it boils down to, right? Yeah. So I guess that's the overarching project is like backlog is like learn assembly. That's a big one, man. we just devolved from if you want to make some real money, this is what you do nowadays. Just to let you know. Oh, I like how you're DMing me right now, but I'm reading it as if you're not. I apologize. Brian's doing really good, but he hasn't grown at all because we're not streaming him right now. We're not streaming that. But join us tomorrow at 6:30 Mountain Standard Time for the continued adventures of Brian the Pikachu and his trainer Red. But yeah. All right. So we have our level selector, and we're kind of slacking off. If you don't mind, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and take 5. So bear with me for just a second. I'm gonna mute myself, and I'll be right back. All right, we're back. Thanks for that patience. Thank you. All right, so where were we? We currently have a response. We have a basic skeleton of kind of what we want. Next thing we're going to do is grab some of the data that we have within our beautiful JSON object over here. And then with that data, oh, you guys can't even see some of this HTML. I am so sorry, you guys. Let me adjust for a second for you so that you can see some of the lovely HTML that we've made together. Where did my mouse go? It left. All right. I will move this to the docket to the left. That's like so much better, I think. Yeah. Okay. So, what we'll do next is grab some of this data that we have some inside this JSON response object now. What we're going to do is we're going to come into this script.js and we're going to work with some of this stuff. Basically, what we have to do now is really have to think about like we're gonna start building some functions that are only called when we ask them to be called. But for right now, what we'll do is we'll just take this this response and we're gonna mess with it a little bit. So let's see. Can we go here? Elements console. There we go. So there's our response object. Return response.json. And then at this point we should have the response.json down here right now. So return response.json. And then what do we want to do with it? We need to basically encapsulate this inside of its own function so that when we return the response, we can take that response and then map it to some sort of a prototype, right? Some sort of a prototypical object, some sort of something that will store, that knows what data we're looking for and stores it in that spot. I like how I put learn COBOL. Funny story about COBOL. Really, if you do want to learn how to make, if you do want to make money, excuse me, I think I'm getting this, I may be getting a sinus infection. If you do want to make money, learn COBOL. That's for real, for real. And the reason I say that is because the average age of a COBOL developer today is like 55 years old. So they're all dying, but the IRS and the Social Security Administration still have millions and millions of lines of COBOL that they will pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars to upkeep. So learn COBOL, learn BASIC, learn assembly, learn some of these legacy languages to make yourself marketable. I don't know, like even if it's just Java, you know what I mean? Java's marketable for the past 30 years. 30 years? When was Java invented? When and why was Java invented? There's the quick quiz of the day. When and why was Java invented? And is it anything like JavaScript? All right, so we do have to do those. So let's look up prototypes first of all. I do know that in JavaScript there is something called prototype. So I'm gonna look up prototype just to see. Let's see what's up. Where is this prototype? is a model that displays the appearance and behavior of an application or a project early in the development life cycle. This is almost exactly, sounds exactly like what we want, right? A prototype, according to MDM, a prototype is a model that displays the appearance and behavior of an application or project early in the development life cycle. That's exactly what we want. We want some sort of like a prototype, prototype Pokemon object that says, okay, so this is what you, are looking for. This is what you're supposed to look like later down in the line. I'm assuming that we don't want our, we don't want our moves list. Do we want our moves list to be a part of the prototype? That's right. Yep. Java was invented in 1991 in an effort to create a language that would allow consumer electronics to communicate with one another. I honestly didn't know that it was that new, but I guess I did say 30 years. And if we're real, I am quickly approaching my 33rd birthday. So 1991 was indeed 30 years ago. Happy birthday, Java. Speaking of happy birthdays, happy birthday, Pokemon, 25th anniversary. Evidently also the 30th anniversary of Java. Happy birthday, Java! Yeah, and that's right. Yeah, to allow consumer electronics to communicate with one another. A lot of the older microwaves and like televisions, things like that, anything that ran off of a computer or had a computer in it, was Java enabled. Fun fact. Alright, so we do want a prototype anyway, a prototype Pokemon objects. We want an object prototype. Here we go. Prototypes are the mechanism by which JavaScript objects inherit features from one another. Cool. Perfect. So let's create this function. Is it really a function? Alright. Let's look. Yeah. This is right? Prototype property. Cool. I think this is right, y'all. Let's look. And then that way, we'll take this prototype, and I'll kind of show you how it's built. It's going to be built like a function. Of course, it is right off the bat, just saying, and we'll say function Pokemon. We'll say name, number. That'll be its you know what? Keep it simple. Name, ID. I guess basically what we're going to do down the road is we're going to create a function that changes based off of the name, either the Pokemon name that we select or the level. So I'm going to have both. Risky. This is subject to change. Subject to change based on what we need. I think that we can do this though. Level and image. I like calling them sprites because that's what they're called in the game, and I stick with that game terminology. You'll notice that I didn't do that? Why didn't I do that? Yeah, that should be it. Should be it. Okay. Cool. And now we do the property and method definitions. This time I have to remind myself how this works, guys. So I'm going to be reading, and if it doesn't bother you, I'm going to be reading out loud. Here we'll go back to the example in which we finished writing our person constructor. Load the example on your browser. I don't want to load the example. What I do want to do, though, is mute myself the next time I clear my throat like a grosso into the microphone. Excuse me. This dot name equals, what we're doing now is, so this is literally the thing that we're in. This JavaScript. That requires a deep breath for so many reasons. As a JavaScript developer, this will fuck you up. Excuse my language. Because you're constantly having to remind yourself what this is, and it gets to be a little bit of an existential thing. So, this, what I'm saying to you right now is this. This is this Pokemon object. When I write this inside of the Pokemon object, it means the Pokemon object that we're currently in. So, as I continue, we're just going to say this.name equals the name that's coming in. This.id equals